Hey, aloha. Welcome
Hi.
to our Zoom webinar, and we are live. And welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is a presentation of the Hawaii LGBT Legacy Foundation, and we're delighted to have you here and talk about LGBTQIA plus owned businesses and our lives as consumers and owners, and how COVID has been impacting us and the whole nine yards in this Hawaii month of Pride, which is October, where we celebrate that here. And we're happy to have a really great lineup. And I am going to hand this off to Randy Soriano to kick us off.
Thank you so much, Winston. So aloha, everybody. As Winston said, my name is Randy Soriano. We want to thank all of you guys for joining us today. Really, the Rainbow Town Hall panel series is a project that was led by a team of passionate volunteers, including myself and fellow board member Andrew Ogata, who's also on this call. Our goal was to start an open conversation that brings focus to topics that affect our LGBTQIA plus community. And we're immensely grateful to have leaders and advocates and community members, just like our panelists today, who are able to articulate their expertise and personal experiences on these issues, and hopefully spark community awareness that will affect positive change for the future. Some quick housekeeping before we start. Our program will end at 6 p.m. today, and there will be a quick Q&A session during the last 10 minutes. Feel free to add your questions to the Q&A box in your chat, and our moderator will get to as many questions as possible at the end of the program. Also, we are going to be live streaming on Honolulu Pride's Facebook page, so please feel free to encourage your friends and family to tune in as well. And before we start, let me remind everyone that it is still Honolulu Pride Month, and we are so excited to announce that we've launched an online store, so you can get all the Pride swag you need from the safety of your home. We have new trendy fanny packs, shirts, mesh hats for you to scoop up. So please visit honolulu.com/shop to check out our merchandise selection. Before we get started, I want to turn it over to Andrew Ogata, who has some background information on our great moderator this evening, Winston.
Thank you, Randy. Hi, everyone. I want to introduce our moderator this evening, Winston Welch. Winston is the principal of Diamond Head Group, LLC, and a co-founder of the Hawaii Rainbow Chamber of Commerce. So professionally, Winston is a certified association executive and has run local, state, and international nonprofit organizations. He holds an MBA from Thunderbird School of Global Management, Arizona State University, and has traveled, worked, and lived overseas extensively. Winston is the principal of Diamond Head Group LLC, consulting in both association management and meetings, conference venue, site selection, and hotel negotiations worldwide. Winston sits on several boards, including the Chamber and his local neighborhood board, and hosts a talk show Out and About on Think Tech Hawaii. Fundamentally, he views this whole conversation about LGBTQ plus issues as a larger discussion of humanity coming into its wholeness, where people are valued for the unique gifts and qualities of both who they are and what they bring to the world. Please join me in giving a round of applause to Winston Welch.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that introduction, Andrew and Randy, for hosting us all here today. And if my internet connection is a bit unstable, I apologize. I think a lot of people were watching the presidential debates, so we may see some fall off there and signal strengths improving. It's my pleasure to be able to be a moderator of this great panel that we have here today. And I would just like to go around and ask each panelist to introduce themselves and let us know a little bit about who you are and what your business is about. And I'd like to start with Ari South, who is owner and designer at Ari South. So Ari, can you tell us about yourself and your business?
Thank you, Winston. I'm Ari. I am a designer, now business owner of almost 10 years here in Hawaii. Competed on season 8 of Project Runway and made it to the finals. showed at New York Fashion Week, came home, started my business here, and very soon after went into in-house manufacturing and production to vertically integrate our supply chain so that we'd have control over quantities, things like that. So it's kind of a newer concept in the garment industry here, because a lot of the companies that were in existence were older. This was a young girl coming in, and so definitely kind of made some waves in the industry. But we're going on 10 years strong now, but that's what I do professionally, and then I'm just kind of here and there at events, and always trying to stay involved with community events, especially for the LGBTQ community. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Ari. Next, I'd like to introduce Will Chen, who is co-founder and culinary director for Freshbox. And Will, can you tell us about yourself and your company?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Like Winston said, my name is Will, and I founded and run a business here called Freshbox, which started just over 6 years ago. We're about to hit year 7. And basically, we started a company that wanted to teach people how to use their kitchens and familiarize themselves with the local ingredients. So it's a meal kit service where we come up with recipes, we source ingredients locally, and then we ship all the ingredients and items to the customer's house, and then they are able to prepare their own meals in their own kitchens comfortably and with simple instructions. Yeah, and before that, I was chef de cuisine over at the Moana Surfrider, St. Regis over in Kauai, and W Hotel, so with Starwood for a while prior to leaving and venturing out on my own. I'm also not from Hawaii, despite appearing, so just FYI.
Okay, great. Thank you, Will. And next, I'd like to introduce Jeff Hong, who is founder and chief technology officer at Techmana, which is a local technology company. And Jeff, can you tell us about yourself and your company?
Sure. So my company develops custom software systems and conducts a lot of cybersecurity defense, primarily for Hawaiian Airlines is our major customer. Prior to that, I'm also involved with the Hawaiian Ethos medical marijuana farm on the Big Island. So Winston, you should go visit one of our shops in your local area. How's that for a plug? Just kidding. Let's see. And prior to that, I started the Microsoft office here in Hawaii. I worked for Microsoft for a number of years before going independent. I was also served as a military intelligence officer with the Hawaii Army National Guard here. I'm from Hawaii, but went to school on the mainland and came back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jeff. And welcome as well. And finally, we have Ryan K. Hugh, who is an attorney and partner at Hugh and Bordenave, LLP. Welcome, Ryan. Can you tell us about yourself and your organization?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm always happy to help out. What's there to say? I'm an attorney, so I don't know why. No, I'm just kidding. I primarily practice in the area of assisting small business owners. I may or may not assist business owners in food, tech consulting, and other areas, maybe not fashion and design yet, but I also assist nonprofits. Basically, I've been doing discussions and talks about surviving COVID. I myself am a small business owner, so I can commiserate a lot with my fellow clients. Hugh and Bordenave is basically a 2-person attorney firm where we do transactional compliance and litigation work. So we've kind of seen it all. And so we're shepherding a lot of clients through these difficult times. In terms of LGBTQ plus kind of support, maybe you've seen me in Business of Pride last year or assisting other non-LGBTQ plus nonprofits. In general, some people find it curious that a business or corporate attorney is kind of, outreach and more socially progressive. And my feeling and statement on the whole topic is you can't have economic freedom and liberty unless you have confidence in yourself. So always be prideful.
It's a great way to say that, and thank you for that, Ryan. And I've had the pleasure of working with many of you, and also that as members of the Hawaii Rainbow Chamber of Commerce, as a co-founder. So I will give a shout out to that, because we're a group of LGBTQIA plus individuals, consumers, owners, and allies, because allies are critical in all that we do. And so I encourage those of you who are not members to join the Rainbow Chamber of Commerce. Just Google Hawaii Rainbow Chamber of Commerce or highrainbowchamber.org. And with that, I will move us on to, because it is very germane that we support each other. This is part of supporting each other, an event like this where we come together and share our successes and maybe some challenges. It's the same thing that we want to know where we can spend our dollars and where we can have our best impact as well during these especially challenging times of COVID, which is obviously impacted all of us in every way. And I would like to, well, not necessarily start off with COVID, but I'd like to ask each panelist, what does being an LGBTQIA plus business owner mean to you? Does it have some special significance? Has it made a difference in your life? Did you start it because of who you are, or how has it changed and shaped your business in a different way that maybe it might not have done if you weren't a member of the community? And Ari, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think, being a business owner that is within this community, it definitely, one is presence. One is seeing people from our community be successful in areas where we probably were raised to not think was possible for us. So that's definitely a huge thing for me that I take great pride in. I'm also from Waianae, so I come from a community that doesn't expect much out of any of us. So, or I come from a community where a lot of people don't expect much from that side of the island. So it's something I pride myself on tremendously, because it's about, for me, I guess a big theme of mine in my lifetime has been breaking boundaries, breaking molds, claiming what I think I deserve, and not allowing anyone else to tell me what I do and do not deserve. So this lifetime, it's in the medium of fashion design and clothing, but I definitely do a lot of things outside of that. And so I think presence is a huge thing. And I think a lot of people want to support people that they really admire and want to see do well. So I think it is a benefit, it's definitely different. I think that's a beautiful thing that I get to experience, that a lot of people, especially older generations, right? So like our aunties and uncles, people our parents' age, they definitely have lived through a lot. And so for them to still be here with us and see that their descendants can achieve great things in life that were not really easy for maybe people who were LGBTQIA plus in their generation, that's a huge thing. So I definitely think that's a huge mission for us. And I think it's a benefit. Being special, like I consider it being magical. We're all magical. So I definitely think that it's presence, and we're kind of in this time of great change everywhere. So yeah. Will?
Did we lose our moderator? We'll self-moderate.
That's fine. I can go. What does it mean to be a business owner? I've been very fortunate. When I was coming up in my career, when I was a few years younger than I am now, I know you can't tell, but I've been around the block. But when I was going in through the hospitality career, my mentors, most of them, if not a lot of them, were out gay men who really set a really good example for me and really showed me what possibilities were out there. Like I said, I'm not from the state of Hawaii. I'm from the mainland. And I remember growing up, realizing that I'm gay and just having all of these kind of ideas and expectations of what was possible and what wasn't possible. So when I came out here, and it could be the state, it could be the culture, but it just felt very welcoming, very open. There's not any judgment. So that really made my trajectory quite easy. So now that I'm on the flip side of things, as a business owner, as an out business owner, it does feel like there's a sense of responsibility to kind of set that bar or set that example for the younger generation. To what Ari had mentioned earlier, you know, also a bit of respect to kind of pay your dues for the people that were before us and did not have quite an easy of a time at things, and the battles and the discussions and the things that they had to go through, so that our lives currently are so much easier and there's just so much more opportunity for us. So it's really up to us to kind of take that, run with it, so that the people after us can even do bigger and better things.
Perfect. Thank you so
Ryan.
much. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, our multiple moderators. So the thing is I didn't really have a mentor
Yeah.
lawyering. I basically jumped in as being a solo after I didn't like working for an HR company. So I've always had an interest in politics, law, and business. So I've also worked at the legislature. And so I kind of melded things that I learned about HR, business, my own interest in getting what I fostered in law school. I got a JD MBA. So that's why I focused on business and really that compliance aspect of especially forming, buying, selling businesses, real estate, leases, things like that. All the boring stuff that people do not like reading, I enjoy reading and I like talking about. But for the community aspect, small business owners who didn't get a JD MBA or this is their first time starting a business, they're already intimidated going to an attorney. And so I've had a lot of experiences where people have asked into their professional advisors or their medical doctors, their dentists, their accountants of, do you know anybody in the community? Because I want somebody who understands me or who gets me and that I can communicate, because you're creating this body of advisors to help with health, spirituality, business, law, and whatnot. And they seek out the community, not because it's easier to talk to. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat now as I was rambling on. Anyway, so that's why I kind of set out is to be a resource, to be an advisor. There is a lot of goodwill and impetus, whether it be starting a nonprofit or launching a new business, whether it be for food services, tech consulting, or lovely fashion design. And I love supporting our local businesses, especially our LGBTQ businesses. I am, go figure, I'm not actually an outgoing extroverted person, but you know, when we were out of COVID, I enjoyed my drinking from hulas down to Wang Chung's and just making the loop and saying hi to people. And I do that now in terms of buying clothes or buying food, is that I try and support local, and it can either be through my advice or my practice, or it could be through my spending habits. And again, it goes back to that economic liberty, community, and being prideful, because I think a flourishing of us means a flourishing of business and economy. So that's my little stump speech. I think it's Jeff's turn. So I'm gonna throw it.
Thank you, Ryan.
The DM says roll for initiative, Jeff.
Jeff, do you want to partake in this conversation and kind of talk about your story?
Sure, and I think I've been around the block probably the most, even excelling from Will Chen. But yeah, when I started in technology is a very tolerant and nerdy, accepting of the LGBTQI community. But there were less letters when I was starting out, and so. I was working both in the Army and for Microsoft when I first came to Hawaii, and it was not. I was comfortable with being out to my employees and my colleagues, but I was actually not out in the larger community. And I had a very one. I was in the Army, and that was in the time of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and so that was kind of a crime to be gay. And then the other part was, I had this experience where I was in the boardroom of one of my clients with the chief financial officer, the chief information officer, and I had our female salesperson from Microsoft. And we were giving a presentation and everything was, fine and professional. And I had known the group fairly well, and she had to leave early. And as soon as she left, the guys were all around the boardroom saying, "You goddamn mother." They were swearing, they're calling each other cocksuckers and stuff like that, which was really surprising. And they were not discriminating against our salesperson because she was a woman. But as a salesperson, she didn't have an understanding of what was going on in the room when she left. And so that was a good lesson that, in working for a big company, I couldn't control the prejudices of my clients. And one of the things that, having your own business is that you get to choose your clients, right? And your clients choose you. And, I serve on the board of the ACLU, and I now participate in venues like this. And if you don't know who I am and what, my business stands for and how we want to present ourselves into the communities, I don't want you as a client. So I think that's my talk on LGBTQI plus businesses.
I love that. Thanks, Jeff. So actually, before we even move over to the COVID-19 shifting conversation, Jeff brought up a good point about creating a more diverse and tolerant work environment, and how as business owners you guys are able to create that environment, right? So why don't we go ahead and kind of touch base on that and kind of unbox that question. As LGBTQIA plus business owners, how do you create more diverse and tolerant work environments? Ari, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure. That is definitely something I feel like we're all aware of. I definitely have kept that forefront of my mind and forefront of my heart while leading the team that I lead now. And even if the team has shifted over the years, for me, the one of the greatest joys is creating opportunity that wasn't available to me. One, in the fashion industry, there wasn't much of a fashion industry left or a garment industry, but also for gender non-conforming or anything other than heterosexual individuals. We're raised to think that there's going to be less opportunity for us. So naturally in fashion, there are a lot of us that gravitate toward the creative outlet of it, whether in just personal expression, and some of us are lucky enough to make a career out of it. And so I definitely see a lot of that opportunity. I see a lot of young designers coming out of fashion programs here, realizing they can find work or experience here at home. They don't have to leave. That was a big thing for me with starting the business here, was I didn't want to be forced to leave in order to find success, because my root is here. And so it's general opportunity for young designers and young creatives, but being able to offer even greater opportunities specifically to the community, the LGBTQIA LGBTQIA plus community here. And I transitioned after starting my company, so kind of transitioning in the light, in the spotlight, was definitely, you know, something I had to really brace myself for. It's been great, but specifically even offering opportunity to people who are still finding their identities, you know, whether they decide that they will transition or not, or wherever they fall on the spectrum. My house or my warehouse, right, my factory and my business is always welcoming and always understanding. And so I think that's why it's really special to have businesses that are owned by individuals of the community, because I think at the end of the day, what leads me is compassion. I will hire based on heart and character over skill a lot of times, because skill can be taught. And so that's something that I carry throughout my career as a business owner, but also as a leader for my team. And I hope that that affects them, right? To always feel that the younger generation should go beyond and do greater things than we will do in our lives. So I try to instill that into the young ones so that they can pay it forward in that way.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Ari. And I think that's so important. That's such a good message, is talking about representation, and then not only representing your community, but also trying to instill values that you find that are so important to you, right? So Will, can you share a little bit about your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, sure, certainly. Freshbox is actually quite small, so we don't have that much staff. But in terms of representation, one thing I would say is I generally try to also be compassionate, but also understanding to our allies in terms of offering myself as a resource, or just being open to having not tough, but just challenging conversations with them. You know, we're in a time where things are constantly changing. There's new letters being added. There's new designations, and there's often a lot of questions as to what's correct, what isn't correct, what should be said, what shouldn't be said. And if we kind of close ourselves off and not really take the time to explain things in a patient way, or just be flippant or frustrated that someone may not have gotten the latest update as to what the terminology is, I don't think that really helps the cause or the situation, right? So I often try to, even if it's online or with someone I don't really know that well, or, you know, high school friend from God knows how long, you know, brings up a conversation or says something in a way that is kind of not correct, you know, take the time and reach out and kind of talk to them about the situation. And I find 99% of the time, it really is nothing done maliciously, right? It's just uneducated, not in a dumb sense, but just that they weren't offered that piece of information, and they're not trying to offend people. So
that's amazing. And I love that you and Ari kind of both touched upon the point of really having allies and being understanding and compassionate, because I feel like that's the easiest way to start these conversations. Ryan, do you want to share?
Sure. So first things first, I think words matter. Letters do matter. It might be just my profession and I'm pedantic about it, so I'm a contract attorney. All I do is read and review 60, 80-page leases. And if my staff, so I think you're all seeing nice side. I think my staff would probably tell you is that, oh no, he gets grouchy if the period or if we're using the wrong ordering and form. It matters because it makes it easier finding things. Anyway, that aside, words, letters, and things like that, especially for when you're a minority or a POC, which is a phrasing or letter, person of color, the difference between preference and orientation, that has certain meaning, it carries things. Yes, we should educate allies and other people, but the thing is it takes some time to do that. And I think sometimes people get a little angsty anxiety of being called out, but that's how you have a discussion and debate. Just because it's tense or stressful doesn't make it a bad thing. I was like, well, how do you work out your muscles? By tearing them. I was like, so that also concludes your mental, emotional, and uneducated muscles sometimes for others. So yeah, the reason why I am maybe such a hard ass when it comes to being a stickler for words is not just because at law it does matter. Actually, there's a court case I love talking about, the Oxford comma, that this huge multi-million-dollar case that they, in a state law in Connecticut, they missed a comma and it changed the whole meaning of the statute. So that's why I like to tell people, no, even your punctuation matters. Segueing back to how we got on this on that tangent, I have a pretty small staff too. I may or may not have stolen other people's staff and lured them away, but I have a fantastic case manager.
You're welcome.
So not only are my clients my friends, but they're also human resources for hiring and recruiting. No, it's all in the community. It's all good. But I think Will and Ari brought up great points. I strive to seek out diversity in my hires because I know what it means to have few mentors or ideal. So, I mean, the practice of law here in even such a diverse state, it is controlled by certain significant, very large law firms, and you always see the same perennials. And so it's important to kind of establish that and carry it forward to others. So I think having a very wide, diverse group of hires, or even independent contractors, even though they're not directly under your employ, is again that striving of, well, I want to go with this person because they are a part of the community, they know how to access the community, and they're a great ally, they're a great friend, or I think they get the language, they understand the words and letters that I am trying to communicate, especially in maybe social media and marketing kind of networking circles. So I think it's very critical to consider that diversity is an asset, whether it be racial, sexual orientation, gender, ethnicity, religion, or even educational backgrounds. To be completely honest with you guys, a couple of our case managers didn't have legal industry background, but we trained them and we spent many sleepless and stressful nights for me, but they brought other skills and different thinking, which I have applied to changing the way legal practice works and adopting them. The joke, obviously, everybody says is the law industry and the legal industry is very slow at adopting and innovating. Well, that's because we're siphoned and siloed off. How do you change it is by reaching outside of it. So that's my take on the whole situation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ryan. And last but not least, Jeff, do you want to touch upon this? And then just to give our viewers a heads up, our regular moderator, Winston, as soon as this question's over, we'll be jumping back as a moderator. So we will go back to our regular programming shortly. Jeff, back to you.
Oh, sure. So in my career, kind of two tracks, right? Obviously in the military, you have a bunch of different restrictions. It's open in some sense and very closed in others. But in technology, it's fairly open. I've hired people in senior positions that didn't have a college degree. They have the skills, they have the intelligence. And so I have the privilege of hiring primarily for people that are smart, if they're ethical, if they're hardworking. Those are the main criteria. And then other than that, it's a matter of reaching out into diverse populations. I've hired, obviously within our community, but also people that have been formerly incarcerated. I still, in my old life and in my new life, discriminate against stupid, right? So stupid can't be kind of untrained, and so, but beyond that,
You still talk to me, Jeff, so it's okay.
you're
Yeah,
not.
I was about to say, I mean, we still have drinks for whiskey, and you still talk to me as well.
But beyond that, certainly there is so much to learn, right, from people coming at problems with different perspectives and different disciplines, both on the technology side, but also from just how to approach a different business problem. Maybe the technology, hammer that you're using, you should come at with a different angle. And the diversity of opinions is valued and is profitable, for lack of a better word, as a businessman. Winston, back to our regularly scheduled programming. You're on mute too.
Thank you, tech support.
Okay, yes, so
Well, Winston, you there? Okay, so I will take over moderating duties again. Why don't we go ahead and jump directly into kind of the meat of the conversation. As you guys all know, we've really had to shift due to the COVID-19 pandemic. All communities have been affected by this, specifically even ours. So I think a good portion of this conversation should be kind of how have you guys as business owners shifted to that? So why don't we go into it? Why don't you guys share your stories about how COVID-19 has affected your business specifically, and maybe some of the creative ways you guys have had to shift or come up with solutions or mobilize solutions for your business. Do you want to start off? Let's start with Ari.
Okay. Let's see. When the pandemic hit, it definitely was quick thinking, I think, all across the board. The way that we shifted so early on was just by chance. And I say that because I didn't have some kind of master plan in terms of how we were going to shift in response to this pandemic. I was just, we watched it get worse and worse, and there was no formula to follow. But one thing that I did listen to was gut instinct. And so gut instinct inspired me to play around with mask designs maybe a couple of weeks before our first shutdown. And for me, creatively, that was just something that I wanted to do anyway. If you follow my career from the beginning, a lot of the stuff I do now is much more focused on our kind of modern Hawaiian prints, minimalist way of doing Hawaiian prints. That's not what we're used to seeing. And so that's just what is current in my design career, in my design history, I guess. But if you watch any of my career from the beginning, a lot of it was, we even made masks in the beginning, but more for aesthetic reasons. My design taste back then was a lot more in line with things that were just extra, like before I would wear masks just to wear masks, I don't know, by chance. So I kind of just,
pandemic trendsetter.
Pandemic trendsetter. Gosh. So I happened to experiment with a mask pattern that I saw floating around kind of a few weeks before the shutdown. And we got so much feedback. We got so many inquiries from our customers asking if we were making masks and this and that. And so and because we're vertically integrated, it allowed me to go ahead and shift kind of on a gut instinct. And if I had to go through another manufacturer, another factory, we would have missed the boat, And so I think all of us as, being small businesses, we realize that we have to we have to be nimble. We have to be in tune with our community, whether it's just the Hawaii community or worldwide in this case. And so we were able to actually make masks available before anyone else is really, figuring it out. And so for that, I'm really grateful. But of course, we weren't even prepared for that. Like how we manufactured masks was all new because primary the primary thing that we produce are aloha shirts for men. So working with my staff, you know, and my beautiful shirt, Ryan. Find it online. We're gonna put the website right down.
We're gonna do some plugging. We're gonna put everybody's website on.
Are we all wearing Ari South today?
Jeff, go get your mask.
So
no, she has an Ari South
our
shirt.
mask. So we jumped on it really quickly, and we kind of just put it out online. We literally went to the beach to take photos of the first mask prototype we did. We decided like, hey, let's just put it online. We may have been a little drunk. And it just like all of a sudden
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that.
We're all human, right? So, but because we were just kind of, it was a Sunday, it was a nice Sunday, went on a photo shoot. We said, hey, why don't we just put it online? Because a lot of people were asking. And all night, the store just kept dinging off. And so we definitely were inundated with masks very early on. So it took us maybe a couple of weeks to kind of catch up and get to a point where we were at least, you know, keeping up with orders. And so that was like a huge, you know, you can see it as a blessing, you can see it as just intuition. But I think had I not kind of just listened to the little tug internally to just like, hey, try this, like just try it for fun, and just kind of went with what I felt we should do, we would have missed the boat completely. And so that was a huge shift for us. We only started sewing clothing again, maybe May. And for us being a manufacturer, we not only did our production, we did the production for other local companies too, but we watched as everybody just kind of paused everything, and none of our clients have resumed, and understandably so, because right now the retail industry is not looking good. But it's allowed us to focus on our collection and our product, because our product took second seat to our clients, because as a service provider and as a service company, our clients came first all the time. And so I say this a lot, that the pandemic has taken away a lot of things that may have even prohibited us from really focusing on what we've always wanted to really focus on. Because I know that's something I always hoped for, but was scared to. So I think that it's been a huge shift for all of us personally, right? So personally, and then on top of us, if we have a business that we're trying to operate, we have to sell this ship that, you know, whether our team is 2 strong or 10 strong or more, we have people relying on us for their livelihood, for their comfort. And so I think I always say that I'm a leader before I'm a boss, because I think that's much more important. And to me, a leader is someone who's going to serve their team rather than just drag them along. And so I always make sure that my team is taken care of. I make sure that we have a closeness that is comfortable for them to come to me with any kind of concerns, especially during the pandemic, because in the beginning, it was very scary. It's almost like a distant dream at this point, but with the first shutdown, I remember I was so scared to even leave the house because we didn't know what it was, but we just wanted to be prepared. So I remember in the beginning, I was scared to even go to the bank. Like I felt so dirty when I came home with cash, because I felt like I had to sanitize everything all of a sudden, and I did. But it's interesting to see the shift from the beginning to now, and not that we can be lax with it, but just remembering what kind of year it's been. It's been an emotional roller coaster for everybody on a personal and professional level. And so our shift was, because what we did was we did soft goods manufacturing. And so naturally, you know, at the end of the day, we were all looking for N95s in the beginning. And at the very least, what we could offer was just something to palliate your face or cover your face for the minimal protection. And then as research started to come out, you know, we realized what combinations of fabric were better. And so just really being flexible in that. And so I think that's really what's gotten me through the bulk of this year. And I think safe to say that we're all children of immigrants as well. And so I think that being LGBTQI plus as well as being a descendant of an immigrant or first generation ourselves, like we were made to thrive. We were made to be resilient. We were made to think quick on our feet and always look for the opportunity for growth rather than wallowing in, you know, something that we're not sure of and scared of.
That's a really good way to put that, Ari. And I'm back. Sorry for my cutting in and out. I think it just shows that this is a year of opportunity and a year of pivoting. And, you know, I noticed the city came out with a new grant about pivoting. How have you pivoted? Apply for the grants from the city if you haven't already on pivoting. It's about being as flexible as we can in our minds, but some people have been really affected by this. We're all getting what we've heard of Zoom fatigue. Our businesses are being conducted in ways we never really imagined or we had just dipped a toe into before. And we have a lot of problems, even sometimes just like me with connection issues today. And I apologize for those again, but it's part of our new reality. And, you know, I noticed that in the beginning, Zoom asked people to start their meetings at 15 minutes after and 45 minutes after because the traffic was so high. But it seems like, you know, I hope that we're going to be coming out as a more resilient people, business, individuals at the end of it. And we will look back on 2020 with some 2020 hindsight and look forward to, you know, it's going to be some more challenges coming up, but some more opportunities. And Will, can you tell us, how has your business been affected by this? How have you shifted in the work that you've been doing? And what wisdom can you impart to us?
Oh, you had me until that last part. I don't know if there's any wisdom in this empty nutshell here, but I'll try. To what Ari was saying, you know, when COVID first happened, it really forced us to kind of take a look at what was necessary in terms of operations and kind of really focus and drill down on those to sustain the business, and a lot of the kind of side projects or the kind of I like to say daydream projects, right? Things that we kind of big picture had wanted to put time and work on really kind of just dropped away because we were kind of in a survival mode, which was incredibly beneficial because you know, we made it through this far, and we've been very fortunate. And you know, I'm very thankful to all of our Freshbox customers that have stuck with us or found us through this. Freshbox started really as a way to connect local food producers, whether they're farmers or even artisanal food makers, to the local consumer. So one of the bigger things that we tried to do during this pandemic was really kind of find ways to work with more of the local food producers and offer more of their products to our customer base. When the state had shut down the first time and there were no farmers markets or there was limited access to these types of businesses, you know, the food producers were still trying to get their products out there. So we were very fortunate to work with a bunch of them to kind of help them through it and kind of bring their products to more homes. But yeah, it really is, again, to what had already brought up, listening to the customers and seeing what they needed and what they wanted. I've said this earlier in the segment, it could be attributed to just the culture that is the state, but the way that our customers, Freshbox customers, have kind of reacted or gone through this pandemic is really kind of unexpected. I understand that a lot of people are having a hard time, and I would assume that would just lead to more angst and anxiety and frustration. But every single week and every single time that we do a delivery or I get a correspondence email from a customer about something, it's nothing but gratitude and just positivity and just being thankful that there are still options out there for them, and that there are services like Freshbox where if they don't feel safe going out to buy produce or groceries or meals, that things can be sent and delivered to them safely and in a way that they trust. So again, we've been nothing but thankful for the way that our customers have been. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Will. I noticed that it seems like a lot of folks are connecting much more personally with their clients and with their suppliers and their vendors, so that things aren't as transactional. They're much more meaningful. I've noticed conversations seem to be longer and more caring and really concerned about how people are doing, because we're not able to see each other. We're not able to give each other a hug or a kiss or even a handshake. And so we're missing something. We're missing some human connection. But I think that things seem to, for me, it seems that things are getting more real, more human out of this. And when you mention about your customers, mentioning those notes too, I think that's really I think in line with what I'm seeing, and people are just trying to be kinder and cut each other some slack in this very difficult time. So it is important that we recognize the services that we all provide each other. And sometimes the best service you can do is just give a nice smile to somebody, even under your mask, as it were. So Ryan, how has your business shifted during this time, or has it shifted? I realize probably a lot of the work you do is remote.
Yeah, so you hit it right on the head. As a transactional attorney, and my business partner goes to court, and his side is a little bit more affected, but the courts here have pivoted themselves in terms of having remote hearings. But for most part, most of my work is done remotely. And my business partner and I had already put plans into place to do a lot of work from home. In fact, some of our staff was already doing 410s before the county of Kauai. And we have workstations at home. So the thing is especially when lockdown hit in March, we're like, oh, okay, everybody just grab your laptops and go work from home, which they're all like, okay, because we've already been doing it. So as an essential business, I did see a taper off, much like Ari, but what I've experienced and my perspective, I think, is having a very eclectic mix of essential and non-essential business owners is many of them are actually taking time, as you've kind of put it, Winston, of, I wouldn't necessarily say it's care, but they are being a little bit more deliberative and spending more time on their strategic planning, which I'm assisting with developing new partnerships, arrangements, or looking at more long-term strategic goals and how to contractually bind other vendors, suppliers, or things like that, or possibly get out of one, like a lease type of situation. So for the most part, I definitely think Hawaii's business owners, whether they're a part of the community, LGBTQIA+, or even in the regular straight kind of thing, have been remarkably resilient if they can reopen. Unfortunately, the situation with the bars and a few other business and industries is there's no way around getting it. And so it's kind of sad seeing many of them kind of collapse. And so something will have to be done. A lawsuit was just filed yesterday by the Hawaii Bar Owners Association. And a couple clients were asking me my 2 cents because we don't do class action lawsuits, and that one was filed as a class action. So they wanted my 2 cents whether they should join in on it or not. But sorry, my tangent. But to go back to what you talked about pivoting, and it's been remarkably smooth for us here as a law firm, but depending on my clients and the advice, the stress on my part is whenever the government issues new orders that even as attorneys, I have no idea what this means. And of course, my clients are always like, what does this mean? I was like, I have no idea. Just wait for the mayor to give a press conference. We may or may not get clarity from that.
Yeah, that's half the battle is I noticed when the SBA came out with its PPP program, literally I applied 4 times in 5 days because the rules changed every single day. And so you have to be flexible. You got to go with it because today's rules may not suffice. Like the Big Island just decided today they were going to open up for people who had a COVID test. That was not the case, a week ago. And so we got to be flexible here. Jeff, I imagine that being a tech company, that a lot of your work also is remotely based. Has your business changed? Has it grown from being in home confinement? How have you pivoted, if you pivoted, and what are the needs of your clients and how have they changed?
So in terms of the ability to work and the ability to work remotely, certainly being in technology has its advantages. But having your main client be an airline that's lost 90 some odd% of its revenue from March through whatever, certainly that's an issue. And while the PPP and other protections that Congress provided for a barring of layoffs for the airline industry, that did not include their independent contractors and subcontractors. And so and rightly so, right? That's the kind of deal in terms you make of being an employee or not an employee of the institution. And so the technology folks, there were fairly massive layoffs initially. And that has somewhat of a human issue to it, right? So some of my colleagues worked for an onshore company that was based in India, and I'd worked with them for years. And then one day they were just gone, and now they're in India. So that part's kind of sad that you had no chance to really say goodbye to a lot of these folks. And then on the other hand, pointing out, the ability to turn on a dime and to change your business model, the agility that small businesses have, big businesses need to have as well. And so it's probably obvious and not a secret, so I think I can share this. But when you ever canceled a ticket, you had to talk to somebody on the phone, and it kind of took a while, right? Now multiply that by 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 of these tickets all being canceled at once because all of these massive flights are canceled. And so the job of automation to unfortunately remove the need for human interaction for this and to streamline and to make the systems more agile, that actually made for a greater need for automation. But it's at kind of the same time that there was not the financial ability to pay. And so having a long relationship, I'd actually been through bankruptcy with Hawaiian Airlines before. So I'm that old. You realize that working and having a good partnership means having a good partnership. And at these times, you realize that there's a promise of the business living in the future, but they're cash strapped right now. And so one of the things that I had offered was to take partial payment in miles, right? And that's the labor of me and my employees today for the promise of a future flight with a vibrant airline in the future. And that was certainly appreciated. I still had to have a layoff of part of my staff, and we took a cut in hours to help the cash flow of the airline to go through. But the business needs to adapt. It needs to adapt and to provide the services that it does. And providing a competitive and needed service means that people can still be employed, and if not employed here, in other places that require these services. And that kind of goes back to the hardworking, smart, ethical people that you hired and discriminating against the stupid. There's always a good place for kinds of people, right? And so that proved to be useful.
Yeah. It's everybody's had such different experiences here, and I think we've all had to pivot in different ways. I know even with my business, part of what I do is conference planning, and the floor just fell out of that. I mean, it's like an airline travel. Who wants to go to a conference? COVID, anyone? So it was like you said, Ari, going out in those beginning days, and we saw New York, we saw Italy, and we didn't know, is this the Black Plague of the 1500s? We didn't really know what it was. Now it seems that we're kind of opening up, and it's kind of scary and seems premature to us, and yet we realize that so much of our economy is dependent on tourism here and what flows from that. So I think one thing that I'm hearing about from everybody is not having all your eggs in one basket helps to diversify your own risk, the risk for your company, for your employees. And we're all going to learn from this and hopefully come out of this. But a lot of new businesses have come out. I just like Amazon hired 500,000 new people because of all the boxes that we're getting now with all of our stuff that we couldn't get before. And so there are new opportunities that are being created, especially in the electronic field or whatnot, and we're going to have to figure out how to integrate these in. Real estate is going through the roof in Hawaii. It's just interesting to see how some have been really up and some have been really down. What can we do as individuals, as companies, to support the LGBTQIA community? How do we help support our fellow businesses? Will, do you have any ideas about that?
Nothing directly. I mean, I would even, and I know this is a LGBTQIA plus conversation, but I would prod it to say, whatever it is we do, we really should be supporting local businesses overall. And if they happen to be LGBTQIA plus owned or whatnot, of course that's great. But to Ryan's point, so many of the smaller businesses we have locally are just toppling, and some of it is due to regulations, legislature, and the tier system and everything else, and it may be a little bit out of their control. But what I often say these days to a lot of my friends and colleagues or people I run into is, when you're out and about doing your day-to-day stuff, really be conscientious of how you're spending your monies, and if possible, really, really try to use them where it'll be beneficial to the local community. So instead of going to the big franchise, big box restaurants or the the Walmarts or whatever, really try to find the local shops that are out there that could really benefit so much more from the money that you are spending there than the big shops. Sorry, that really wasn't the answer to the question you wanted.
It's a great point, and I was asking for some supplements for a friend's pet, and they said, you know what, you can buy it from us, but we really ask that you support local businesses that sell our products in your community. And I thought, wow, that's really nice of that company, because they know they could sell it cheaper and better, but they realize they need to support their network as well in the future. So they gave me the name of the local business here in Kailua that sells those. And I thought, good for you. And that reminds us, also, if you are using the big spot, guys, if you're using Amazon, there's alternatives to it. But if you are using Amazon, go to smile.amazon.com, choose a charity that you like. I give to Outright International. They do great work for our community in the hardest countries of all, but there's a lot of different organizations out there. You could rotate every week about the stuff that you buy in that. Ryan, do you have any thoughts about how we can best support our community, building on what Will has said?
Well, my role is just spending time and giving initial, I did that already, but a lot of times when the referral comes in for Chamber of Commerce or a friend or somebody in the network, I do try and spend a little bit more time or trying to give them a little bit more guidance. They may not consider engaging me, but at least with guidance and directional advice, they kind of have a little bit more confidence about what their next steps are going to be. So it's tough times. So, I mean, unfortunately, you're going to have to do a little tough love in some situations, but also on yourself a little bit of, you got to dig down and dig deep and kind of just say, I have to give a little bit more. I try and do for, like Will was highlighting, because I know how tough it is at, especially in the food services, I do try and tip 20, if not 30% now, even if it's a takeout bento. Those workers and employees definitely need to weather this. And then for the business owners, they're not supposed to be taking from the tips, right? So the thing is what are they getting to feed themselves? So even though, you know, it's not, and this is not a judgment or anything, but I'm just saying that, you know, when it's bento or takeout, it's not going to be a whole lot of food, but yet you're paying 20, 30 bucks. That money is going to keep the community alive and that business alive. Will is on my Gay Geek and Gastro podcast. So I know we're not doing show, but we talked about this topic of, I got into aquascaping this, well, I mean, what are you going to do in lockdown but look at fish and aquatic plants? But I don't go to Petco for my supplies. I go to Kalihi Pet, Aquascapes, and all these other kind of, I call it my Saturday tour, where I just stop off and buy a little bit. I buy a little bit of things from each store. And it's nice to talk to people, but the same thing goes back with the LGBTQ. I am so sorry. It's Thursday afternoon and I'm losing my alphabet soup. Anyway, what I was gonna say, I myself am thinking of ways of, we've lost pauhanas and things like that, but I'm thinking of doing a tea time. It's not for legal advice. It's just to reach out to maybe 2-3 business clients and let's do tea over Zoom, to make Zoom a little bit more interesting and interactive, but just chit chat and kind of also that work-life balance, that stress, right? You're being constantly assaulted by Donald Trump or COVID and or both at the same time. And it's nice to take that breather and talk to business owners, because even before COVID, I always recognized in small business owners, you do not have the water cooler talk that if you were at a large bank or financial institution or real estate company to alleviate, to talk, to problem solve. So I always wanted to develop ways for small business owners to just chit chat, and was like, this client really pissed me off and I'm not going to disclose confidential information, but I need to vent. And I think that's another thing people forget is that business owners are people too. That's why my business partner as a plaintiff's attorney represents business owners who've been hit by buses. Anyway, but I was like, business owners are people too. So especially in these times, they need to let it out, and creating these safe spaces for business owners is another way. And that's what I think is great, is so buying local, but also coming together and creating these little mini gatherings, to me is kind of still okay, whether it be virtually or in person, so long as the city's okay with it.
That's a great point, is coming together, even if it's virtually, and it's sometimes we need to vent. You know, you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, and again, I would, in answer to my own question, if I might, that the Hawaii Rainbow Chamber of Commerce is exactly designed to help us find each other. So if you're not a member or you know a business that would be appropriate to be there, I actually recently referred Ryan there because he is a member and of the community. And I don't know a lot of attorneys out there, but I know that Ryan is a member of the chamber, and that means something. He has identified that I'm here. I know that my client will be safe with him, and he won't have to explain a situation about who he is or what he feels like. So that's meaningful to me. In a similar way, I had another friend who needed a realtor, and you don't want to have to go into the story. And actually, In this case, they're both straight, but they're both allies. And I thought, they get it. They're supportive of the community. So it's one way to support each other like that. And maybe we need to add a drop-in Fridays for the chamber. I thought your question, and I think Jeff had the same one, aquascaping. I thought it was a way that you use like high pressure water to remove hair from your arms or something, and it was like, but it said it's aquariums.
Underwater gardening is how I kind of, just look it up. I'm not an expert or anything. I just got into it, but people create these beautiful kind of visual designs, and for nowadays, it's great stress relief just watching the fish or looking at it's just kind of a natural kind of thing, right? Looking at an underwater kind of garden.
But I like what you're saying. Winston. Big Island sounds fun.
Well, it sounded like I didn't know, but the point, Ryan, and I wanted to finish with this because we are coming to a close and to have some, if there's any questions from the audience, but what are you doing to take care? What is each of you doing to take care of yourself or what do you want to do more of to take care of yourself? Because now that we're all working from home, there's no one to shut out the lights and leave the door. So you really got to have that time where you walk away and you say, I need the work to stop. I need to take a work sabbatical. I need something that marks the end of the day and that lets me, even I've heard some people just walk around the block literally, and then they come back and they're not turning on their computer again. Will, how are you practicing good self-care? What do you want to do better at? Any thoughts?
I've said this a lot recently. I feel very fortunate that during this pandemic, I've been able to kind of find some positive aspects to the situation. I know that not everyone is afforded the same circumstance. But with that said, with a lot of the limitations, be it social, fiscal, just the opportunities and the normalcies that we used to have aren't around anymore. I have more free time, or it seems like more personal time, which leads to the answer of your question. What I do now, and I'm so grateful for, is just sleep. I've never gotten more sleep in my life. Partly because there's nothing else to do, but you wake up, you have a couple of meals, you do your work. There's no bars to go to, there's no events to go to, there's no openings to attend. For a long time we couldn't see friends in person, so I would just go to bed, and I love it. It's absolutely kept me sane. I sound like an old man, I know.
So catching up on years of sleep and just getting proper rest. Yeah, it's critical. Ari, what are you doing for proper, excellent self-care, modeling good self-care, and what would maybe, or something that you want to do more that you thought about?
Let's see, for self-care.
Okay, there.
Definitely spending more time.
What do you want to do different?
We've seen very often in the last few years the idea of a 4-day work week or a more balanced work-life balance. And I think something that I've observed, because I've had to kind of shift even the scheduling of my staff. Like right now, we're still on a 4-day work week, which I really, really like, because it's Friday through Sunday. My production staff is off. I just did some volunteering on Monday, and I thought it was just such a good way to still be active, still contribute. We did a food distribution. We helped with Hawai'i Health and Harm at their distribution in Kaneohe. And I now am considering maybe making Monday every week a community week, whether it's community service or if it's malama aina kind of stuff, but still staff on the clock, that they're still, but to me, I realized that the value of that team building personally, and also for myself to be outside of work. It's really true that we do make our shorter work days much more productive because we're not looking at 5 days worth of work and 5 days worth of time, really, because we can get even more motivated to finish all of our work in 4 days. I don't know about 3, but right now we're at 4. That it's nice to have the extra day, because 2 days off from work just kind of a lot of times isn't enough. You know, a lot of us are, especially, I don't know, I think young business owners, we've been at it for whatever amount of years we've been at it, and I'm just tired. So it's nice. It's been nice to be forced to shift schedule, and it's been kind of a nice way that I've been forced to see the value in a shorter work week. And so it's something that I'm probably going to continue on even into the next year, because I think it's effective. At least having Friday to Sunday off, it allows time to do things at home, spend more time at home. It's giving us more time to do what we should be doing. And because we were on lockdown for a bit, we were forced to be home with our families, and we had to face a lot of things that we probably weren't ready to, or that we kind of keep busy to run away from. And so I just kind of realized this week that 2020 is our medicine in a way. You know, it's not really pleasant all the way through, but it's definitely something that's offering healing to all of us on a personal level, which then makes us more prepared to bring our best to the business side of things.
It's really well put. And I think there's a lot of gifts inside of 2020 that we have yet to discover, but this may be one of them, is that this sense of balance that we work so hard in this country that a lot of life seems to slip us by, and we've had a chance to step back, especially being prisoners in our houses. We haven't even been able to go outside. You appreciate the tree in the park a lot more now, or being able to go into the water, or get on a plane if you haven't done that for 6 months. You know, just things that we took for granted before. It's a great thing. And I love your idea about community service and shortened work weeks. Studies prove people really don't work much beyond a certain amount of hours anyway, so we might as well just acknowledge it and move on. In my humble opinion. Jeff, what are you doing to model self-care? What are you doing for self-care? What do you want to do more of?
Oh, sorry, there we go. No, I mean, certainly I think a lot of what's been said is I ascribe to. I'm very admiring of your approach, Ari, in terms of taking the time.
Me too.
In the community, but yeah, a lot of the time that I had as extra, unfortunately, was actually quite busy with my nonprofit work, and so that was both fulfilling and frustrating because it was with the ACLU, and for obvious reasons, it's been fairly frustrating for the past 6 months.
So getting outside of yourself, volunteering in the community. So many organizations need us. We do have to step up. We all have to step up and find ways. Ryan, are you doing anything that you want to add that models self-care besides it's having a beautiful interior garden you've created, which sounds
I highly recommend just looking at them. It's just there's a lot of people who do YouTube videos, but when I had said we do 4 10s here, just to be clear, that's for the staff. That's not for me and my business partner. It's more like 7 10s here as a small business owner, especially for an attorney, because when I'm not consulting or advising or planning, I am reading and sending people emails on Sunday at 12. What was it? I think 12 a.m. Anyway, Ari is right. I think having less events that I have to go to, I do miss them. Everybody here, seeing people, at a hotel ballroom looking gorgeous and lovely it's great. But before 2020 hit, I do remember I was like, oh no, I have 3 events tonight. I have to stop here and then go here and then here and then say hi, and kind of like, it was very exhausting. Now that I find that I have more time to myself, as I said, I picked up a new hobby, but it allowed me to restart some of my old hobbies. The reason why Jeff and Will have been making fun of me is they're both in my Dungeons and Dragons group. So, you know, when I'm done planning and writing rules and being a lawyer, I get to then be a lawyer in a fantasy world with players. So I was like, go figure, right? I was like, play to your strengths. But yeah, I find that being able to do the fun stuff that I liked doing, because when I first started out as an attorney, I had a lot of downtime. And so a lot of things that I enjoyed, I put off to the side. I found that I could come back to them with having things less. But as I said, with these refound hobbies, for aquascaping and Dungeons and Dragons, I patronize local comic stores and pet stores. So I can find that even in my hobbies, I can help out the local community. So, I mean,
I love that that you're refinding and recommitting to games and things that bring you joy and fun and with other people, and maybe you're playing virtually or maybe you're getting in person, but it's a good lesson for all of you. You all have had such great insights, intelligence, and wisdom. Well, yeah, you've all contributed some wisdom, and just showing up here, maybe encouraging people. People have heard some things that you've said, that you've shared, that may give them some inspiration, spark some hope as we're, you know, coming quickly to the end of this year. And we've got another year ahead of us that's going to undoubtedly bring a lot of changes, challenges, but a lot of opportunities as well. So I will invite all of you to, you know, stay committed, stay involved, take good care of yourself, look after the people that you care about, look after the average Joe on the street who needs a little bit more love. We can all be kinder to each other and cut each other some slack. Give back to your community as best as you can, like these great folks have tonight. I wanted to thank Ari South, Jeff Hong, Ryan Hugh, Will Chen, especially thank Randy Soriano and Andrew Ogata of the LGBT Legacy Center here in Hawaii for hosting this and for asking me to be a moderator tonight. It's been my pleasure to be with you all here, and I hope that everybody has a terrific end of the week and a great weekend, and that we maybe start our Pauhana Friday early and give everybody officially off tomorrow. Aria is. Let's
Aria leading the way.
Let's follow Ari's advice. So I'm all for it. So
thank you
very much.
Thank you for organizing and moderating and having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And if there's anything we can do at the Rainbow Chamber of Commerce, please let us know. If you have some ideas for us to have connection and community or whatever, we're also all volunteer run, and we need all the help that we can get as well. So Randy, did you have anything that you wanted to add to close us out from the Hawaii LGBT Legacy Center?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, I want to thank you, Winston. Thank you for being a trooper. And thank you to all of you guys. You were amazing and had great insight to the topic today. One last thing, please join us. We have 2 more panels remaining. We have one next week, Monday, and that one is on mental health and stigma within the LGBTQIA+ community. And then we also have one on Wednesday on safe and stable housing in the LGBTQIA community. So I really urge all of you guys to please be there for 4:30. We will be live streaming. For those of you who want to share this video with all of your friends and family, since the live stream was down, please urge them to go back to our Facebook page. We'll be posting it within the next hour or 2. So thank you so much, everyone, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Oh, the veil is lifted.
Can we see the